Welcome to Arlington, the learning town, a vibrant community where lifelong learning and digital literacy define everyday life. The Arlington Housing Authority and the nonprofit MACIR, M-A-C-I-R, collaborate to give every AHA resident genuine access to the tools, skills, and support needed to thrive in the digital age. In a learning town, digital literacy isn't simply a buzzword. It's a gateway to better jobs, stronger connections, and full participation in society. Through innovative programs, training centers, and dedicated tech support, AHA and MACIR bridge the digital divide and open doors for residents that might otherwise be shut. Leaders like Jack Nagel and Rashid Mukhabir champion this mission every day. Residents master new technologies, explore career paths, and stay connected, empowered to learn, grow, and build brighter futures for themselves and their families. Join us for the following conversation and discover how AHA and MACIR are transforming lives by equipping residents with the digital skills they need to succeed. Lifelong learning thrives here, in a place where everyone belongs and can flourish. Hello, everyone. I'm James Milan, and with that introduction of our guests, I want to welcome you to this episode of our series on Arlington as a learning town, and specifically with an emphasis on lifelong learning. And my guests, as you've already heard, are together an excellent example of what it is that we are looking at around town in this way. And I am delighted to welcome both of you. So on my far left is Rashid Mukhabir, who is from MACIR. I'm just going to leave that acronym alone and have Rashid explain its meaning in just a minute. And then also Jack Nagel, who is a familiar face for Arlington audiences as the director of our Arlington Housing Authority. And we find ourselves in the community room at Drake Village, one of the Housing Authority's properties, and you will notice that things are going on all around us as we speak, because the project we're talking about here today is happening in real time right around us. So that's a wonderful opportunity for us. Again, thanks both of you for being here, and Jack, thanks for inviting us into one of your facilities. Really appreciate it. So let's start the conversation by I'm going to ask you both to very briefly, and especially in your case, people are generally familiar with the Housing Authority, but if you could just briefly give an introduction to that, and then I'm going to ask you to do the same, Rashid.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you. So the Arlington Housing Authority, it's a public housing authority made up of a number of different programs. So there's the program that oversees this site, which is our senior state-aided public housing program. We have 520 units of that. We also have, and that's across 4 different developments: Drake Village, Cusack Terrace, Chestnut Manor, and Winslow Towers, which, as many know, is that large tower right in the center of town. We also have 179 units of family public housing, again, state public housing at Menotomy Manor, which is in East Arlington off Broadway. And we have a number of other just scattered units throughout town. In addition to that, we have our federal program, the Section 8 program, where we oversee approximately 400 some odd vouchers, with many of those individuals living within the town of Arlington. But the benefit of that program is it's mobile, so individuals can live throughout the Commonwealth and actually throughout the United States of America. So in addition to our public housing programs themselves, we've expanded in recent years with resident services and other self-sufficiency programs. Part of that being what we're talking about today is some of the efforts and things that we're trying to do to expand resources and learning and everything else that the Housing Authority can provide.
Yeah, I just want to remind folks that is indeed the inspiration for this entire series in a lot of ways, is the fact that organizations like both of yours, but yours is such a flagship organization in town, are going so far beyond whatever their mandates are and whatever their kind of stated or understood duties are to try and, again, serve the public or serve your constituents as best you can in as many ways as you can. So thanks for that. Rashid, I had mentioned that, the name of your organization that you founded and are the executive director of. That's MACIR, M-A-C-I-R, but I'm going to, again, just ask you, explain the origins, please, for us.
Sure.
And actually, go ahead and take your time on this, because it's a great story.
So MACIR started as Moroccan-American Connections in the Riviera. And there is a huge Moroccan community in the city of Riviera that they were like segregated from the system. I helped integrate the community at that time by empowering them through education, cultural events. We have seen a lot of Moroccans become part of the fabric of the city, become police officers, educators, firefighters, and it was a great success. However, during the pandemic, there was no time for cultural events or all of that stuff that takes over in the street. We stopped everything, and we started realizing that there is a huge need for digital skills, and we started teaching people online how to use their computers and how to take advantage of those opportunities, and perhaps they can work from home. There is no way a person gotta risk their lives for minimum wage, and we have seen like people working in those essential jobs, while other people are working from home. Just they know how to use Microsoft, they know how to use Zoom. Why not other people doing those blue-collar jobs and risking their lives? And that's how we started. We were teaching people, then they needed some sort of experience. So that experience became community technology. We are helping bridge the digital divide while those people are helping build a career and while we are saving the environment. And that's when MACIR became Mass Association for Computer and Internet Resources. And our mission became to empower communities through technology. And we took advantage of this opportunity with Arlington housing authorities to make it a pilot. And that pilot helped us build a system called Elevate, which stands for Enhancing Literacy and Empowerment for Valued Access to Technology and Education. Woo. That became MIT Solve winner. Then it just went all over Massachusetts, and I'm very thankful to Jack and his organization who helped us, introduced us to other housing authorities based on the success that we have had in here. And it's been a wonderful experience providing people access to technology, to technical support, as well as pathways to technology. And I'm very happy to share a copy of Elevate that started from a pilot to an MIT Solve winner, and now it's a book that can any community take this as a guide to replicate the success that we have seen in Arlington. This is your copy.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot. And as I read here, it says it's a blueprint for community digital readiness, and it really can provide a blueprint for other communities to, like you just said, replicate what it is that you guys have been doing. Yep. So interesting for me to hear. I did not know that this was actually a pilot program, that it's not an established thing necessarily just yet. So tell us about the program itself that that kind of brings us here together today, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can kind of bring you from the beginning to where we're at now. So what ended up happening is we had heard about this resource. It was shared with us from some of our other housing authority colleagues through the Massachusetts Broadband Institute. They put out a grant, which was part of the Internet for All initiative that was being led by the Commonwealth. Mm-hmm. And so we applied for that, and we were pretty excited because we were awarded. And even from that grant itself, in which we're working on today, I think they're actually doing work over at the cottages across the street right now, where the intent of that first part of this grant is to just bring high-speed internet into all of our buildings. And the benefit of that is, one, it's going to bring in a better source of internet for all of our residents to be able to utilize. But in many ways, that resource is going to be at a much more affordable rate than the other competitors, whether that's T-Mobile or Comcast or Astound. And nothing against those companies, but it's also going to provide some additional competition to them, as for our residents that have that need, but they need it at a certain cost. Mm-hmm. So that's the first part, bringing in internet at a low cost. And then through that, and Rashid and MACIR Inc. were able to work with us, I believe, with Air Vivo on that end as well. is, we were already going to be hopefully getting a certain number of laptops through that, which is part of the program we're here to discuss today. But then, we were able to get connected with Rashid and his team and talk about the ways in which they could support us. And we were, beyond excited because, I was thinking here, I'm going to have to I want to do this, but I'm going to have to figure out how to do all this by myself. And, Rashid essentially was able to calm all my fears and say that he had a good process in place and he had a good plan on which not only would he be able to implement this program, but do it in a way that helped me manage it in a way that wasn't going to completely take up a good portion of my time. So it's been done efficiently. He's helped me tremendously, whether it's with the reporting and everything else, the tracking, the management of the actual laptops, and obviously the training through James at our different sites. But through that, he instilled with me, obviously, a level of confidence where we were hoping to move forward anyways, but no fears at that point. So we moved forward with another grant, which is a subsidiary grant to that original grant called the Range Grant through Massachusetts Broadband Institute. We requested the maximum amount that we could get, and to our, we were very excited to get that maximum amount. So what it resulted in is that we were going to get a laptop for every single household in our public housing portfolio. So every single resident would have the opportunity to complete the training through MACIR Inc., get that certification, and then as part of their reward essentially for completing that certification, they'd get a laptop. So they'd be able to apply that knowledge immediately and expand upon it through some of the weekly trainings that James and everybody provides through the program itself. And then I was, in retrospect, I didn't even think about it, but I'm very grateful to Rashid for pushing me to apply for an additional subsidiary grant, which was the Connected and Online grant through Massachusetts Broadband Institute. And the benefit of that program is it's going to have rippling effects even beyond this first year, where we're really pushing and we're working. We get the grant funds to do everything we're doing right now, but it's going to give us laptops for a lending program. So we have 72 laptops that we'll be able to use ongoing to lend out to residents that need to use it, whether it's for, job-related, training-related, education-related, what have you, or just for their own purpose. They'd be able to take it out and use it. And then also, it presented us with additional infrastructure. I mean, right now, at each of our sites, we were able to install one community computer per site with some limited capacity. But this grant provides us 2 additional desktop PCs for every one of our developments, including our family development, which we didn't have before. So it's just expanding our capacity to be able to move towards additional training and resources and education and programs moving forward. So, and then the other piece, which we're very excited and still trying to figure out where they're going to go. Great problem to have this new infrastructure and not know where to put it yet. is we got Epson whiteboards that we're going to be able to use for, again, additional training support. We have a new line smart board, which we're going to need some training ourselves to know even how to utilize that. Yeah. but I think the short of this is that, through these grants and through the support of Rashid and his team, is, we're in a place where we're bringing in not only all these programs, but all this equipment and infrastructure that's not only going to help us in this first year, this grant, it's going to have rippling effects that are going to help support us in the years ahead as we continue to try to expand and provide additional programming, which, we can definitely touch upon that more.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Rashid's team and the support that they provide, and I just want to clarify for our audience, just in case there's any confusion, that the James you've referred to a couple of times is not this James, but another James working in the background here right
James
now.
Freeman.
James Friedman, who is a MACIR employee who is working with the various residents who are signed up for the programs and training.
Just to mention something, James Friedman came in from MACIR for a training at our facility, and he ended up MACIR paid us to train him. Then we couldn't find anyone better than him, and he started working for us.
That's excellent.
And it's great to see all of these partnerships between communities to make things happen. And that's speaking of MACIR, what we are applying here in Arlington, it's something that we have learned through a JEDI program led by MACIR, and it had like almost 20 organizations that they were partnering together in a $4.5 million project, also funded by MBI. And I learned so much from there because all the resources were segregated, and aligning all 20 organizations, it became a nightmare. And I was like the leader of that efforts, putting the technology together, training the digital navigators, and also I was assigned to refurbish laptops, and they were like the driving force behind all of this. And I learned so much to the point that allowed me to create a system called Elevate that we implemented here. And again, that trust that we had from Arlington and from Jack and his team, that allowed us to accomplish what we have accomplished so far. And it's great to see all of these community organizations coming together to help out our residents.
So I just want to, before I ask my next question, I just want to clarify that you just referred to MBI and funding that you got through that source, and that is the Massachusetts
Massachusetts Broadband Institute.
Broadband Institute. Okay, so just any future references to MBI, that's what we're talking about. This series, as I mentioned at the outset, and as you guys well understand, is about looking at the different lifelong learning opportunities presented in Arlington through different collaborations, such as this one, provided by different organizations, institutions in town, from the police to the library, et cetera. That's what this series is all about, and that's what I'd like to ask you next, both of you, for the particular population that you have and are working with right now here. What are the things that, what goals do you or they have that are very common and that this program is meant to address?
I can take that, Jack. So every resident has different goals. But the main thing in here, or the main purpose, as we have seen that everything shifted online. If you want to apply for a job, they send you online. If you want to get your health check, they ask you to use telehealth. So by depriving people from devices and internet, we are actually segregate them from their opportunities. And to me, bridging the digital divide is basically strengthening democracy in this country. And that's why we are so passionate about what we do. Speaking of the goals of each learner is different. A job seeker could be interested in Microsoft, learning how to use Zoom. Then there is a class called the Workforce Readiness, shows them how to create a resume, how to create a cover letter, interview questions, and also teaching them about Workday or ADP. A lot of people, once they get the job offer, that's where they start suffering again from the digital divide, because they ask them to onboard themselves by themselves. And here, people suffer in silence. They think if they tell their employers, I don't know how to use ADP, they may take that opportunity away from them. So we have seen that, and we are teaching also people how to use ADP, and this is speaking of job seekers. But in the other end, there are seniors that they are interested in life digital skills, learning how to use telehealth, learning how to stay connected with their families, now learning how to stay safe online and to shop online, Then you have like other refugees and immigrants that they are interested in English for digital access. So we created a learning management system that has more than 12 courses in there. And we start everybody from the digital readiness bootcamp. And we don't give that laptop to someone until we know that he knows how to operate it safely. And that course focuses on computer skills, internet skills, and online safety. So we do that in a day. We have seen people how they are pushing themselves to complete the course, but it's definitely worth it. At the end, they leave with a laptop and they leave with a certification that we see them that they are very, very proud of that certification. Also, we give them some tips on how to stay safe online and access to the learning management to continue the learning in their own. And whenever they have a problem, they come back and our digital navigator here every day to help them. So technically, nobody knows everything, and we teach them how to learn. And that's the important thing, that we get them excited about life learning, and we have seen some great results.
And so the digital navigator that you've mentioned a couple of times, that's the position that James
Exactly.
Friedman has right now, and,
Exactly.
and that you've... Jack, the idea, you had mentioned in describing the program, you'd mentioned both the fact that you have a number of laptops, 72, I think you said, to lend out, and
Yes.
then you also have laptops as incentive
Yes.
or as reward for completing courses. How do those two things, are those two separate programs, or?
Two separate programs under the same organization, Massachusetts Broadband Institute. And I think building off like what Rashid said too, and an analogy that he used with me when he was describing their certification and issuance of the laptops is he said, you're not going to give somebody a car without a license. And I remember that stuck out to me, and I thought that was a really good.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, especially because, again, you're giving them this reward, so to speak, which is actually a tool once you've shown them how to actually use the tool, which is fabulous. But I'm sorry.
But that's the first part. Having the opportunity for residents, at least one member from each household would have the opportunity to complete this course and get a laptop. And then the 72 laptops is more ongoing. So we're going to have this additional resource in the years to come where it will help us support different trainings that we have on site, or support residents that we may not have those laptops to issue out anymore, but we may be able to at least lend a laptop.
Got it.
So then they can take advantage of of different trainings and resources and whatever is available.
So the 72 laptops are just basically going to be here for people who have not yet taken the course, perhaps, or beyond that, when each household has a laptop, but they might want to access another one or something like that.
That's exactly.
So
And where
those
do
two
the
programs,
sorry, go ahead.
they complement each other.
Yeah.
So as Jack mentioned earlier, each unit is entitled for one laptop.
Yeah.
But if you have more than one person in that house, they can take advantage of those 72 laptops that we work together to configure them. That can become like a second resource. So again, we want to include everybody, but there is only so much we can do. So there is one computer per unit, but if there is any additional need, those 72 laptops can serve for that purpose.
Right. I mean, you said that there's only so much you can do, but what I'm kind of floored by is the fact that you're providing hundreds and hundreds of laptops in order to be able to complete these programs. Where are they coming from?
So the computers that we are refurbishing, and that's part of the first grant that Jack mentioned, it's a range program. So technically we are saving the environment because a lot of those laptops used to go to the landfill. Then at the same time, we're creating jobs. We have like an in-house repair team that is in charge of refurbishing those laptops, and those laptops, they get refurbished in our organization in East Boston, then get distributed to those housing authorities that we are working with. And at the same time, if there is any issues with those laptops, we swap them. If either our field digital access specialist team, such as James Freeman, usually like they are well trained on how to update and do some basic troubleshooting. But if there is any issue that may take replacement of parts, it goes back to our organization. That's where it gets repaired and refurbished, then it keeps circulating. So a lot of the laptops are coming from that, but the other 72 laptops that there are part of the Connected and Online program that are coming from MBI in an initiative to distribute 27,000 devices across Massachusetts.
Wow, that is a terrific program. You know, we've been talking a lot about kind of your vision and the success of the collaboration so far as you've seen it, et cetera. And what I would like to know is, what are the hard things in all of this for both of you guys? What are the challenges? What's tough about what you're doing?
I can. You want me to take this, Jack?
I'm happy to.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Both of
Go
you
ahead.
get to. You can
So,
just.
As always with these grants, like from my perspective, what can be the difficult portion is just the bureaucratic administrative portion. The filing of invoices, the filing of reporting, just the keeping track of everything. But honestly, it hasn't been, terribly
Onerous, not too bad.
Terribly onerous. And honestly, the individuals at the Massachusetts Broadband Institute and Rashid have been very, very helpful and flexible, more so than any other grant really I've ever worked with. So
Wow,
it's just
that's saying a lot.
And it's like they're fully committed to really supporting these programs. I mean, we've had instances, especially on the internet installation side, where we've gone back to them and said, we really, in order to complete that work, they need to do X, Y, Z, and then we go to Massachusetts Broadband Institute. They say done, no problem.
Yeah.
And in some cases, that was quite a bit of work. Hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of work.
Wow.
And that's when I think before we started this conversation, these are all the things that build on each other too, where that was work we would have had to have done ourselves at some point in the future, and now it's just another piece that's getting rolled into this project, which is going to save the authority money, help us move forward with additional upgrades sooner, and support our residents in another way. So it's just. But anyways, you were talking about the difficulties, not the
That's fine.
benefits,
That's
but,
fine. The fact that you can't stick with the bad things for too long without mentioning good things, that's totally fine. How about you, Rashid?
I think I just gotta build on what Jack just said. The bureaucracy and those kind of programs that are federal programs, it's very hard to navigate. But working with people such as Jack and Massachusetts Broadband Institute that are helping us, just like I'm doing whatever it's being done in Arlington, I'm doing it in other towns, and each month I have to send 3 different invoices related to devices, then another invoice for digital literacy, then another invoice for digital navigation. And I can tell you, I can commend Jack for what he's been doing. He's been very, very helpful. This is when we can benefit each other, is when everybody focus on things that they do better. So I'm good with when it comes to digital navigation and all of that project management, and Jack is good when it comes to that administration. And I can guarantee you, this is the organization that owes me nothing. All the invoices were paid on time, and I'm very happy. And beyond the money, it's just like that sustainability. Just like there are certain organizations that takes this as a second job or as something that they shouldn't be doing, but Jack takes it seriously and he jumps on those kind of opportunities. And I'm very, very happy working with him to overcome all of those kind of obstacles that faced us since the beginning. The other thing is speaking for other organizations that try to do things in their own. Because like the minute you get involved in certain things like that, you will need a project manager, because you will need to deal with devices. So first, how to procure those devices, how to configure those devices, how to track those devices, how to refurbish those devices, how to provide technical support to those devices. Then it comes to internet access, which is the best service provider. Then it comes to digital navigation, how to train those, how to hire them. Then it comes to digital literacy, what is the curriculum, how to build it, how to do this. By the time you train someone to teach the class, they will leave, and you will deal with that headache. And a lot of those organizations, they come back to us because they hear great feedback from people such as Jack, and they want us to help them with that.
Right, to actually kind of organize and streamline their.
It gets easy for me because it's kind of becomes like routine for us.
You've been doing it for so long. Yeah.
For so many organizations, it's almost the same way. But for them trying to figure out things by themselves, it's almost impossible.
I want to. Time has flown as always during these conversations. wrapping things up, I want to ask, I think probably primarily you, Jack, but also if Rashid, if you have observations about this. Once again, reminding you and our audience, this is a series about Arlington as a learning town and the particular confluence of things that work in this town for that, for our residents, to achieve lifelong learning opportunities, et cetera. What are your observations, Jack, from working in Arlington for quite a while about what about this community either lends itself specifically to this or somehow has worked as an excellent pilot program?
I think the town of Arlington itself, not only the greater Arlington community, but the town of Arlington itself has a lot of great resources, whether at the town level, all of our partnerships with, whether it be Arlington Health and Human Services, with the Department of Veteran Services, Council on Aging, AYCC. I mean, the list goes on, right? I mean, it's just all these partners, and everybody comes to the table and wants to help. But it even goes beyond that. I mean, our partnerships with the Somerville Homeless Coalition, Housing Corporation of Arlington, Arlington Eats, Food Link, and then you start to go further and out from the greater Arlington area.
Let me interrupt you and just mention Stop and Shop, which also contributes. There you go. Wireless mice.
And that's a great example. And that's a great example because there's so many of these instances that we have where we end up making a connection with an entity in town, whether it's Stop and Shop or Food Link or whoever it may be, and they find out about what we're doing, and all of a sudden they want to help, and they donate devices or support or assistance or technical know-how that ends up making it a lighter lift, or actually helps us to be able to move forward with what we want to do. So I mean, that's the biggest thing. But thinking beyond Arlington, I mean, Rashid is a great example. Somebody that came in, helped us move forward with a program that otherwise we really wouldn't have been able to do. And because we made this great partnership, this great relationship with Rashid and MACIR Inc., now we're able to provide this resource, which I love this resource because in a lot of times we get something and it's population specific. It's going to benefit the seniors or it's going to benefit families. And this is something that benefits everybody in a multitude of ways, whether it's helping them move towards self-sufficiency or helping them look towards other ways to get better employment or better education or better access to health.
Or better connection to their families.
Better connection to their family. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, it's just all these things that help support one another. And, and that's been kind of the mission that we've been trying to move towards in recent years as the authority is how do we take these other factors that also affect our residents and build them in a way that better supports them. And I think this is a great example of a program that does that. But I mean, there's other programs too. I mean, there's the collaborative opportunity relationship we built with Arlington Eats for the food pantry we just installed here.
Yes, which we will be visiting at in a date not too far in the future, I have to say. I would like to give you, Rashid, the last word on this, and especially because I know that your own organization and your own commitment to this was built first in Revere and dealing with a specific population of folks who could use your help there. Now you've worked pretty intensively with a different community here in Arlington. What can you share with us about that?
Well, it's been a wonderful journey. What we are doing, it's bridging the digital divide. It's not a one-man show. It takes the whole village, and this is like a continuous work. This is not something that can be in one day and we are done, or it's one project and we are done. No, what we are doing is the foundation. Everybody start talking about AI and stuff like that, but how can you do AI without computers, without internet access, without the proper technical support, without the guidance? What we are doing, it's beyond one project, and we are committed to this. And we are trying to elevate everybody. So this become like almost an ideology. No, it's not just a project, it's something that we believe on.
It's a mission.
Exactly, and you can't accomplish democracy in this country by eliminating half of it.
All right, well, I want to thank both of you very much for joining us. Super interesting conversation, very inspiring as well. We really appreciate it. wish you the best with with the work that you're doing right now.
Thank you so much.
And again, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I've
Thank you
been
for having us.
speaking with Executive Director of the AHA, Jack Nagel, and Rashid Mukhabir, who is the founder and Executive Director of MACIR, Inc., about this tremendous program going on. We'll hear more about it as it proceeds, but we want to thank them for being here. We want to thank you for being here as well. I'm James Milan, and you know what? We'll see you next time.